Daddy eats lots. Daddy eats lots. Daddy eats lots. Munch, munch, munch.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Daddy Eats Last, where we discuss the challenge of being a man in modern society and whatever the hell that even means. I'm Kane, and joining me is a very sore Ryan and a covered in grease Matthew. How are you both, boys?
Good, guys.
Good.
Now, firstly, Ryan, why are you kind of walking like an old man tonight?
I am hobbling around like an old man because I did run Melbourne today, and I did the half marathon. So it was a good, different way to spend Sunday morning. Instead of sleeping in, I was up well before 6 o'clock and running the streets of Melbourne CBD at 7 a.m. for 21 plus K kilometres, which was good fun. I
was going to say that, do they split it exactly in half? Is it 21.1 Ks a half marathon? Or they just
It is, yes.
21 Ks?
No, it was 21, and then you had the little 100 meters at the end. So
excellent.
Completely legitimate half marathon.
And Matthew, why are you covered in grease?
I got to be on the other side of the sausage line this morning at Bunnings. So my daughter's daycare had a fundraiser there today. So I got the 8 a.m. till 10:15 shift. Turning snags on the barbecue, which was good fun. Got to talk to a lot of the dads and mums, though you don't really get the chance to talk to sometimes at the daycare, and yeah, good experience.
It would have been almost peak hour for the snags, wouldn't it? Just leading into peak hour anyway. You might have got off early.
Leading in, yeah. So just before we finished up, we had a big rush, so that was pretty stressful, but we managed to pull it all together. And,
everyone got a sausage, some with onion, some without. Oh, everyone with sauce.
Yeah, onion on the bottom is the rule these days, and then the snag and sauce on top. So happy customers.
Right. Always giving, Matthew, always giving.
I lived
Did anyone eat it weirdly like Bill Shorten?
I didn't see anyone. I don't think so.
Let's be honest, that cost him the election. If you can't eat a snag, you probably can't be PM of the country.
That's a good point.
Yeah, the little thing is right.
Now, we're up to number 3 of our trilogy on bucket lists, and it's my turn in the hot seat this evening, and I probably do have the most boring bucket list of all time, but it's me. It's time for me to do my bucket list. So I'll start by saying that I've done a lot of weird and crazy stuff in my life already. Like I presented a couple of radio shows, had media passes for multiple Melbourne Fashion Weeks, pitched TV shows. I had media passes for all the major horse racing events in Australia, repeatedly standing so close to Black Caviar she could have licked me or more likely kicked me. I've had a media pass for Royal Ascot and stood on the actual racetrack as the Queen went by. I've spoken on stage in front of hundreds, maybe 1,000 people, won an award for photography, organised a really big New Year's Eve party, and kind of achieved a level of financial and time freedom by the time I'm 40. So on the whole, if there's been something that I've really wanted to do, then I've generally just had a crack at it. And I actually really recommend that people do this, sit down and write like what I've just done, which is basically a reverse bucket list of things you've already achieved. To me, it kind of makes you maybe feel happier and more motivated actually looking back at things you've done instead of maybe wistfully hoping for future events. So that's my first tip around a bucket list is maybe I started with my reverse bucket list of stuff I've already done so I don't need to do it again. And like I said, I've done some sort of weird and crazy stuff for the duration. I'm really just a trained accountant. All that other stuff is just kind of on the side. So if there is anything I really want to do, I have had a crack at it.
That was going to be one of my questions, knowing that you thought you had a boring bucket list. Were there many things that you'd already ticked off your list? You say you've done the reverse bucket list and you look back, and quite often I think with these kind of things, you may have already achieved something, which you just mentioned there, Kane, that you might not have known at the time that was potentially something you really wanted to achieve. So whether it be your award in photography, you didn't obviously maybe set out to win an award in photography, but you got it. And then when you look back, you go, wow, that's pretty cool. Not everyone gets awards in photography. I've done that. That's bucket list worthy, or that's ticker box worthy kind of thing. So yeah, I'm guessing for you, there's a lot of things. Yeah, like you said, you've already done that. You may not potentially thought about it.
Yeah, and my bucket list has probably changed a lot over the last sort of 15 years as well, to be honest. There are probably just as many things on there, but the nature of what's on that bucket list has probably changed a heap, actually. And I had to think of things which I know would have been on my bucket list 10 or 15 years ago. And number one thing would have been visit Europe, and I've done that a few times now. So I've ticked that off my bucket list from 10 or 15 years ago. One of them was playing the FA Cup, a provisional round, not like the FA Cup, but the provisional of the FA Cup, like the worst soccer players in England playing the FA Cup in provisional rounds. I wanted to do that in England back in the day. I want to go to Glastonbury. And actually, if I was a bit more organised, I probably could have got a free pass and gone to Glastonbury one year, but I wasn't organised. I wanted to get a song into the top 40. That was on my bucket list probably 10 or 15 years ago. And maybe ease up on the 9 to 5 work by the time I'm 40. So the length of my bucket list probably hasn't changed. The content has, mainly because I've ticked a couple off. I'm too old for some of them. I don't really like camping now, so I'm not sure Glastonbury for me. And I have minimal musical talent.
It's interesting that you've done a reverse bucket list. I think, for the people out there, we can put a lot of pressure. Like, especially doing my bucket list last week, I'm sort of like, oh shit, I've got a lot to do. And it's been really good because I've been thinking now practically, how do I get a number of those things done in the next 12, 24 months, which has been fantastic. But also, I think people fail because we're always thinking, what's in the future? What do we want? We're always got this, I want the next big thing, or I want this, or I want that. But just doing a bit of a look back and go, shit, I've actually come pretty far. Can just kind of maybe make people feel, I guess it's just taking stock of what you're grateful for. So I think the reverse bucket list that's something I'm definitely going to take away from this. I'm going to go check that out. I
think everyone would be surprised if you sit down and do your reverse bucket list of things you've actually done. Like Maddie, you've overcome cancer. Like, that's not on anyone's bucket list, but the fact you overcame that and survived, that's amazing. And like went through like hard treatment, and got through it, and you back to, well, as normal as you ever were, back to normal. Like that sort of stuff's amazing. Like, you wouldn't put that on a bucket list, but the fact that you've been through it and everything's great now, that's an amazing thing to look back on. That's why I think the reverse bucket list is really important. I've got my future bucket list coming up as well, but actually sitting down and going through what you've already done is a really important thing for people to kind of look back on as well.
I think just touching on what Ryan said there, how it's good to look back sometimes. I guess as well to give you a sense of, you do have a sense of achievement. So while we're always looking forward and worrying about what we need to achieve in the future, just I guess concluding on what you guys have said there, looking back as well can give you that sense of achievement and say, hey, I've done this already. It's quite a lot. I should be proud of where I am at the moment.
Exactly right. But I'm going to look at my future bucket list, things which are on there. I had to have a bit of a scratch around and have a bit of a think about this, which is always a nice thing to do. And this is in no particular order. These are just, the things. So one of them is take up jiu-jitsu. Now, I used to do karate when I was a kid in my early teens, and got within a couple of months maybe of being a black belt. I was definitely a brown belt with 2 stripes. The problem was that there were kids there who I semi-knew from back in kindergarten, and they had a group of friends there, and collectively they used to bully me in basically every class, despite me actually being able to beat them when we used to spar. Go figure. It's a shame because I actually really enjoyed karate, but it wasn't like Cobra Kai where I could just roundhouse kick the bullies to the side of the head and kind of sort it out that way. And the sensei didn't do anything, so I just had to cop it. So I got to the stage where it was easy for me just to quit than not look forward to going to karate every week. I actually don't think I've actually told anyone that story before, and I reckon to this day my dad probably still wonders why I didn't just finish what I started and when got the black belt, because I was really that close. So there you go. I'd love to try another martial art, as I think they're great for self-discipline, respect, building resilience, and problem solving as well. I definitely want to get my little fella to do this as well when he's old enough to understand and take instruction, because I think jiu-jitsu and any sort of martial art, there's a time which is too soon. He's too soon. But I think it'd be really good, as I mentioned, for self-discipline, respect, and those sort of things.
A great activity for both of you to do as well, potentially one day there.
Yeah, I want to start a little bit before him, so then I always maybe have the ability to kick his ass a little bit. Like, I don't want to get into it first, and then get to 17. He's like kind of got me covered. Like, that's probably not ideal.
Always
the
one
master.
lesson ahead. One lesson ahead.
That's right. So that's one of them. Number 2 is go to a high-level soccer match. I'm not nearly as passionate about this particular bucket list item as I would have been 10 or 15 years ago. I used to love soccer and definitely 100% took it way too seriously when I was younger and playing. Now I just realised it was probably a ridiculous thing to take as seriously as I did and devote that much time to it. But I just really enjoyed the competition and improving, about practicing and getting better at something I really enjoyed. I actually still really enjoy mucking around with the soccer ball, and while I don't think I could play soccer anymore on a consistent basis, I could spend an hour in the backyard just mucking around with the soccer ball, kicking it against the wall and not get bored of it. So if anyone out there needs a fill-in for futsal or an outdoor game at any point, I'm up for it for 1 or 2 games, and then I'll pull a calf or something because I'm old. But I'd still really like to see a high-level soccer match, and the Socceroos in the A-League don't really count. I'm thinking South America or the EPL or the Champions League or a match in Spain or Barcelona. They're all really good options. The closest I got was being in Barcelona when the World Cup was being played and Spain won the World Cup. So I was in Barcelona watching the World Cup when Spain were playing in, I'm not sure where the World Cup was that year, but it wasn't in Spain, but we're in Barcelona watching it. And it's like nothing I've ever seen or probably will ever see again.
What a fantastic experience that would have been.
It was, and people go, you're so lucky to be there. I've gone, no, I planned to be there because I thought Spain would win the World Cup. So it was probably the best bet I've ever had, in that I was basically betting that Spain would win the World Cup. We're going to be in Barcelona when Spain play in the World Cup final, and it turned out that way. And then they won at the end of extra time, and literally spent the next couple of hours just, I don't know how they celebrate in Spain, but it seemed like everyone was out. So everyone was out in the streets. Cars were driving down the street, and people were just yelling at cars. Like, they're obviously celebrating in Spanish, but to us, a few English speaking guys, it just sounded like people were just yelling at cars as their celebration.
Oh, they were having a mucho fiesta.
Yeah. So yeah, I'd really like to go to see a high-level soccer match. And I've been to Europe, I think 3 times now, and I've not managed to do that. So that's probably something which is on my bucket list still, which I could conceivably do pretty easily.
Can I just ask, is it hard to get tickets to these kind of games? Like, because there's such a massive population and there's only X amount of thousands. Like, is it just as simple as jumping on the ticket tech or the equivalent and getting a ticket that way?
I think it is almost that easy, depending on who you want to see and where. You could go and see any of the sort of major English teams in the Premier League most weekends. If it was a really big match, you might not be able to get a ticket, but say if it was Chelsea versus Burnley or someone like that, I don't think you'd have too much of a problem. Nothing against Burnley; that'd be perfectly okay as well. I'm not that picky.
Not fussy.
No, not at all. So the other thing on one of the other things on my list is a silent retreat or a meditation retreat. And I don't mean a yoga retreat, but that'd be kind of good in a different way. I literally mean a silent or meditation retreat. No talking, no phones, no email, no yoga pants, no activewear, no working out, no music, no reading, no writing, no sex, no wanking, no drugs, no alcohol, no moving during sittings. I know it sounds brutal and it's not like a traditional bucket list sort of thing, but so why is it on there? Well, I've actually read that this is a really powerful experience to, I guess, observe your mind and all of its crazy making that it does up there. And so being basically stuck in your own mind for hours, you notice where your brain goes to escape from discomfort and how you avoid both emotional and sort of physical things and physical and emotional pain. So I guess you kind of get a better understanding of what you're feeling. It's just you and what you feel, you and your brain for a period of time to learn about, learn that nothing is kind of permanent. And that's life.
Wow.
Yeah, I've had a friend, she did one of those and said it was one of the hardest but most rewardingly challenging things she ever did. So I can understand that one.
Yeah, yoga would be good, and there's movement, and there's obviously still talking, but yeah, there's something about the silent or a meditation retreat of just kind of having to deal with the thoughts which kind of run all through your head all the time. I think's kind of good longer term. like you say, I think it'd be brutally hard to do. But yeah, it's something which is always, it probably never appealed as much until I had a kid who never seems to be quiet.
Oh. Can you just run through for people who potentially might not know what a silent retreat is? You're obviously offsite, away from your house. You're at a specific location doing this from like breakfast in the morning, and then from say 9 till lunchtime, 9 till 5. Are you just sort of zoning out, being
The whole day.
Like the whole day?
Generally get woken up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning for a meditation thing, and you're woken up by a gong. So there's no one's waking you up just going, "Oi, get up, Jimmy." It's just gong wakes you up. You get up if you want to do it. Don't talk to anyone. You go there and do that. Get fed. Basically go through the day just meditating, just spending quiet time, things like that. So literally no speaking. They can go up to 10 days in duration. I don't think I could do that. A long weekend would probably suffice, or a couple of days. But even that I think's enough. I don't think it would take long to kind of really sink your teeth into that sort of thing, or go crazy. And they're both viable.
That's cool.
Yeah, I told you it's a weird and wonderful bucket list. Publish a book is on there. Funnily enough, I actually have a list of chapters and a mock title for a book entitled "So Your Girlfriend's a Bitch, Your Mates Were Right All Along." Actually, I'm pretty sure I actually wrote some actual chapters for it at one point about 10 years ago.
That is a great title.
It's got legs.
It's got legs for sure.
Despite it having legs and maybe having the best working title of any book ever written, I probably know I'll never really write a book because I don't think I have the talent or the discipline to do it. As much as it would shove 2 fingers up my Year 12 English teacher's backside, who said I'd probably never amount to anything. Thanks for the inspiration, Heathmont Secondary College, by the way. So for that reason alone, it can stay on the bucket list in perpetuity. I do still write a weekly blog on accountancyonline.com.au, which is about life and business advice in song lyrics. So I still write in some way, but I don't think I actually have the technical capability or the discipline to write a book. But yeah, so your girlfriend's a bitch, your mates are right all along. It's got legs.
I think we need to publish that. I reckon we can do it. We'll back you in.
That's something I've always kind of wanted to do in some format. Like I do enjoy writing the blogs each week, and I leverage stuff off the back of song lyrics. So it's pretty easy. Just pick a song that you like or you've listened to and write a blog on the back of it. So I quite like the process of doing that, but having to do that across, I don't know how long a book is, 20, 30, 40,000 words. Don't know, too hard.
You don't have to write it all. You don't give yourself a deadline of a year to write it. You can just give yourself 3 or 4 years, slowly chip away. Or there's no even time limit on it, really.
That's a good point, Matthew. Well, it's on the bucket list. Another one.
I think the title's too good not to pursue, to be honest.
Another one is help my parents achieve financial freedom, or at least let my dad retire. My dad's been a tradie for the best part of 40 years, up and down ladders, carting heavy stuff, working hard 5 or 6 days a week for like the best part of 40 years. My parents are also, I'm going to say, almost financially illiterate to some extent because they didn't need to be financially literate back in the day. That's perfectly okay. As a huge number of their generation was financially illiterate as well. They're good, honest people who are given really average financial information along the way and just haven't ended up where they should have been. Still, they gave up a lot. They gave up a lot for me and my sister, and I think I've turned out okay, apart from mistitling some books and maybe those sort of things. I'm not really that bad of a person. But they're basically pointing me in the right direction the whole way along. And I was not a great kid in that I always used to throw temper tantrums. My mum had been called up to the principal's office in the first week of my primary school, which is more than she was in the principal office for her whole school career. So I wasn't an easy kid to deal with. They would have needed unbelievable patience. So to be able to at least enable my dad to retire, or at least ease up on the harder work that he feels he has to do, and let him be able to pick and choose jobs that he wanted to do. That's really important to me, and it's something I've been at the mat for around 5 years, trying to get a plan to make that happen. Now I'm just going to basically make it happen, and I've kind of taken some steps to at least engage a financial planner who I know and trust, and who will do this for me as a favour, because I've done him plenty of favours over the duration, to put together a plan to hopefully allow this to happen. So this is one bucket list item that I hope I can tick off soon.
It's a very admirable item there. And I mean, it's kind of good, you know, the stuff that you've done, you actually have that contact and that expertise, because sure as hell the parents aren't going to listen to you because you're the kid. So that's just what happens. I resonate with that very strongly.
Yeah. What's
sounds,
literally the only reason I got into the profession that I did, the only reason, because no one gets into accountancy to have a good time.
Oh, you mean accountancy is not sexy? I never would have figured that.
Oh, maybe only at 1 a.m. after the June 30 party.
Oh, it's a very good bucket list item there, though.
Thank you. Another one, there's only a couple left. Men broken bridges. In 40 years of life, I've had some conflicts with people. Hard to believe, I know. Some sort of silent ones, like where there's been unhappiness at the other person, but it's not aired out, and some direct ones and some indirect ones caused by other members in my family. So while it may be difficult to let go of incidents where a person has really hurt you and you can bear a grudge against someone, I always think the person who gets hurt most is you, the person who actually has to carry around, bearing that hate in inverted commas, or carrying the weight of dislike. So I'd really like to reach out to a few people and sort of bury the hatchet, or at least facilitate my extended family actually talking to each other as well. I did this a couple of months ago, like with somebody that I had a falling out with. Like I just went up and said, "Hey mate, how you going?" Just at a social event. And it felt really good, even though they were the one who I think probably hurt me more than me hurting them. So that's something I'd like to do a little bit more of, is actually reach out and mend some broken bridges. Not for some of our workplaces. I burn those fucking bridges down. They're staying. But just people.
Well, work friends and normal friends are very, very different people. Simple as that.
Yeah. But it's just something that kind of bothers me, I think. If you feeling that sort of weird feeling, especially if you see somebody who you've had a falling out with, that it's just that uncomfortable feeling, which it doesn't happen often, but I'd like it to never happen again.
That's a really good one. I think a lot of us can probably relate to that, having that kind of, yeah. I mean, I don't, but there was a kid I used to make. Oh, this is going to sound like a prick, but on the bus I used to sometimes tickle him too much, so he'd wet his pants, and I sometimes really think about going to see him and just buying him a slab of beer and go, look, probably punch me in the face.
Bad.
Oh, what an asshole.
See, that is exactly what I'm ticking off. I've never tickled someone until they pee, but similar sort of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know where to go after that. My lucky last is, and this is in no particular order, probably a travel-based one, either any of Japan, Inca Trail, the Northern Lights, Antarctica, see some whales close up. Like, I've always wanted to go to Europe, as I mentioned. I've done that sort of 3 times, and I saw the Tour de France, including a massive stack literally right in front of me. I got photos of. I did miss the live soccer match thing, but it is what it is. Is
that what you won a photography award for?
No, it wasn't actually. It was for the horse racing stuff. But it was a pretty massive stack actually, about a K out. It was a sprint finish as well, so it was about 20, 25 cyclists. So I got some cracking photos of that. But Japan, Inca Trail, Northern Lights, Antarctica, some whales up close. Each of these would be awesome to experience, and I'd really like to see them. But having said that, they're not really burning a hole in my soul right now of not having seen them. So that may change. And I think travel is a really important part of life if you have the ability to do it. And we're extremely lucky that we live where we live, and we've been afforded we've been afforded that luck and the choice of, as well, of being born into Australia and, being in a sort of prosperous country. So I understand I'm really lucky. These are things which are just, I've been afforded because of where I've been born as much as anything else, and a few choices I made along the way. So yeah, it's my bucket list.
Do you have a number one travel destination?
Sorry?
A number one travel destination?
Not really. Japan seems the most practical and easy. in that it's close by. It's a direct flight. Northern Lights is crazily hard to get to. Antarctica's difficult, obviously. Inca Trail takes 24 hours to even get to the bottom of it. I could probably see a whale off New South Wales if I wanted. So I think practically Japan or seeing some whales up close would be the most practical ones to tick off. And I'm a practical old man.
Yeah, Japan would be very nice. I have to ask, how did you get media passes to both the Melbourne Cup and Melbourne Fashion Week?
Well, this might have been back in the day that you could just start a website, do a couple bits and pieces, and just submit literally, hey, this is what we do. But this is like when not many people were doing social media. So I was kind of doing social media at the start of social media, especially Twitter and things like that online. So I just take any photo I take, I just tweet under the particular handle. So we'd done that for a little bit and literally just applied, and they've just given us a media pass. So yeah, we literally stood under Black Caviar's nose at one point, being in the, I don't know what they call it. It's the pit of photographers at a few different fashion events in Melbourne, which was great.
Yeah, the horse racing, because I know that you're into that, but the fashion, that's a new one for me that I've found out.
Lots of strings to this bow, my friend.
See? It's all interesting.
I know that some guy tried to pick me up that night as well. One of the nights was, interesting night.
Oh, I made a fashion show.
Exactly right. It was really, really good, Kane. A really good insight, different to everybody else's, which is great. It would have been boring if it had been a lot of the same kind of stuff we'd already spoken about. So no, you've outdone yourself.
Well, I wanted to do the same things as you guys, but I didn't want to copy. You guys went first, so it's always harder going last.
Me and Maddie will go to base camp, and you'll just you'll be on VC.
Yeah. But I think the important thing is there's two parts of what we've done. We've obviously done a bucket list each, which is discussing things we'd all really like to go do, and having goals and aspirations are really important because it's the best way of actually achieving them is to write them down and work towards them. The other part, which is what I went through at the start of mine, was actually looking back and looking at things you've already achieved because you've probably done a lot more than you think you have.
Very good learning.
Well, that about wraps it up for this week. Remember to subscribe to Daddy Eats Last on iTunes if you haven't already. And while you're there, please leave a review. Also, tell your mates about the podcast, especially if they are guys. Most of all, thanks for listening, and we'll be back next week for another episode. Won't be a bucket involved next week. Or should I say serving of Daddy Eats Last? How's that for a dad joke? Catch you next week.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.